Today we're taking a look at our batteries and how to test them in case you feel like something isn't working quite right. Welcome to the MBoards tip of the day. One really frustrating thing about electric skateboards is if something does go wrong with your board, it can be very challenging to pinpoint exactly what the problem is. A lot of times a battery issue, a motor issue, an ESC issue, and even a remote issue all can actually look the same, which is your board and their motors not spinning and not moving forward. Any of those things could be the problem, but today let's focus on the battery and make sure your battery is in good health before checking everything else. Or maybe your board's working totally fine and your battery just isn't charging. So we'll go over how to test for that too. Before we can even start taking a look at our battery or even trying to diagnose an issue, we're going to need a multimeter. If you don't already have a multimeter, I highly recommend getting one. You can get one at your local hardware store, on Amazon, or even our website. So if you don't have one, please get one. You don't want to be left in the dark or wondering what's going on with your battery pack. Give yourself the tool to be able to actually know for sure what's going on with your battery. Before we actually get our multimeter out, we need to identify what we're actually testing for. What are these numbers even mean? So we need to identify what a healthy voltage is for your overall battery pack, as well as each of your different P groups. So to do that, we're going to find a minimum voltage and a maximum voltage. To find the minimum, you'll want to multiply the amount of cells you have in your battery pack by 2.5. In my case, I have a 12S battery here, so I will multiply 12 by 2.5 volts, which is 30 volts. The absolute lowest voltage this pack should ever be is 30 volts. And for the record, I am not recommending that your 12S battery should ever get down to 30 volts. Your individual cells should never get below 2.5 volts each. But if we're just testing your battery, maybe your battery's been sitting around for a little bit, 2.5 volts per cell isn't detrimental, but you absolutely do not want to run that down 2.5 volts every day. That would absolutely cause long-term damage. So we want to bring that voltage up as soon as we can. But if it's under 2.5 volts each cell, it's not very good. So we definitely want to take a look at that. Okay, so we found the minimum voltage that your pack should be. Now we should take a look at our maximum. For a 12S battery, we're going to do the same type of math, 12 times 4.2 this time, and that'll get us 50.4 volts. A 12S battery should never be higher than 50.4 volts. Maybe it's 50.5, maybe it's 50.6, depending on your charger. But outside of that, we do not want it to exceed 50.4. Again, I'm using a 12S battery for my example, so the numbers I'm using might be different than the numbers you need to look for. So if you're using a 6S battery or a 10S battery or even a 20S battery, your numbers are going to be different than mine. The only time you get to copy mine is if you're using a 12S battery. So to make things a little bit easier, I've made a graph with a lot of common battery sizes and their minimum and maximum voltages. So take a look at this graph, find the battery that you have, and then those are the voltages you should look for. Okay, so first things first, we're going to check the main overall voltage of our entire pack. That'll give us just a broad idea of how healthy our pack is, just really quick. So to do this, we need our multimeter. We're going to set it to the DC mode on our multimeter, and then we're going to use our probes to insert it into our main plug. So in this case, I have an XT90, and we will insert that. And mine is currently sitting at 42.3, which is between 30 and 50 volts. So far, first glance, my battery looks good. So once you test that, if you're realizing that your battery is actually too high of a voltage, we need to check a couple things. One, are you using the correct charger? If you're using a charger that's outputting a higher voltage than it should, it may charge your battery too much. Now again, if we're talking like 0.1, maybe 0.2 volts, there are some variances with these chargers. Not a big deal. You don't want to store your battery at 50.5 or 50.6, or in your case, 0.1 or 0.2 volts higher than the actual maximum, but it's not the end of the world if it is. Now, if your voltage is too low, we've got a couple of things we should look for. One, maybe your whole pack is fine, it's just very low and needs to be charged. Now, if your charger still isn't working, your BMS may not be allowing the power to get to your battery because your voltage is too low. Now, if that's the case, you should definitely reach out to your battery manufacturer and find out what to do next. Now, the other main issue we could have is maybe your whole pack is good except for one or two of the P groups. If one or two of the P groups has depleted to 0, the rest of your groups could be at that 4.2 max, but if they're reading 0, you're now missing 8 whole volts off of your pack, which is definitely problematic. So to understand what's going on with our P groups individually, we want to be able to look at each one individually. The main thing we need to get access to is our balance lead. Now, in this case, I'm using an MBoards transparent series battery pack. Everything that we have on our batteries is modular, so we give you access easily to our balance lead. Now, if you have a battery pack from somewhere else, most likely that balance lead is going to be inside your battery. So if you really do need to test it, you're going to have to open it up, unwrap it, and get access to these balance leads. Now, luckily, again, I'm using a transparent series battery from our shop here, so getting access to these cables is very easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to probe each individual pin. So the easiest thing is we put our black pin on our black probe on our black pin, and then we'll take our red probe and put it on the very first red pin, and we will get 3.53 volts. So that's the voltage of our very first group. Now if I continue moving along into each individual pin, now it's saying 7.06. So what that is, it's group 1 and 2 added together. The next pin is 10.59 volts, which is group 1, 2, and 3 added together. And I can go all the way down the list until I get to 42.3. So you'll get 12 different values. So what you should do then is write all 12 of the values down. And then what you can do is you can subtract the next value from the previous value, and you can get that individual P group voltage. So then we'll get a full list of all of our individual P group voltages, and we'll be able to look at them and see how balanced they are. Okay, so I've just gone through and tested all of my values at the balance lead, and I've got my list of all my voltages. So here's my group 1 through 12, all the readings I took at each one, and then the math that works out to each of the different P group voltages. So ideally, what you'd love to see is every single number exactly the same. So as you can see, I've got 3.53, 3.53, 3.53, 3.54. My highest value is 3.55, my lowest is 3.52. So we've got a 0.03 volt difference between our highest and lowest cell group. So that's great, honestly. We're talking 0.03 of a volt delta across all the different packs. This is also a brand new pack that's never been charged, so even after it balances out, it should balance even more once you charge it, but that's very good numbers. So now, once your pack has got a lot of cycles on it, maybe you've charged your battery a couple hundred times, your voltages probably won't be this close. But what you do want to see is the voltages being as close as possible. But what can we learn looking at our list of voltages? Well, if you've got one cell that's way too high, what will happen is, as your battery charges, as soon as that one cell gets that 4.2 volt max, most likely your BMS is going to cut your battery off from the charger and stop charging the rest of your pack. So the issue with that is, one cell gets super high, the rest of them are pretty low, the whole pack stops charging when that one cell gets high enough, and now you're leaving tons of capacity left on the table. So it'll definitely impact your capacity there. Now if you've got a cell that's too low, or a couple cells that are too low, as the rest of your cells become fully charged, your charger is going to stop, and those cells will not get any more power. So again, you have capacity problems. So both of these scenarios will lead to range issues and capacity problems with your battery. Okay, so you've identified that you have some cells that are out of balance. How can we rebalance them? Well, the easiest solution would be to try to rebalance them using a variable power supply, or being able to charge each P group individually to match the others. Now this can be tricky, it can be challenging. Your battery manufacturer may be able to do this for you if you are not comfortable doing it yourself. But what we've done in the past is we'll take a group, we'll hook up a charger just to that group, we'll charge it back to whatever the other voltages are, and then we'll go from there. Now the issue with that is that may work short term, but it may not be a long-term fix. So if for whatever reason that cell group is just got more resistance or more wear somehow than the rest, what you'll most likely see is that group again get out of balance. Now many times though, for whatever reason, we rebalance them and they're great for a long time after that, but typically we'll probably see that group get out of balance again one way or the other. Okay, so we've looked at your voltage across your main connector and across all your different P groups. They all look good, but your battery isn't charging. Okay, so that would usually mean two different things. Either your BMS stopped working or your charger stopped working. 9 times out of 10, it's your charger. The Dali BMSs have been so reliable for us. We've only replaced probably a couple of these over the years we've been selling them. So most likely it's your charger. So we can do things though to test your charger as well. So in our case, we'll test it very similarly to how we tested our battery. So with our barrel connector, we'll do the very similar thing. We will put one probe into the tip of the charger, and the other probe will rest on the side of the barrel connector. and that'll give us a voltage reading. My charger's not plugged in, so it's currently reading 0 volts, but if it was, this would read at 50.4 volts. Now what we want to look for is that the voltage reading on our multimeter matches or is very, very close to the output voltage listed on the back of our charger. Now if that is significantly lower or way too high, we'll definitely want to take a look at our charger and probably get rid of it and replace it. Now if that's checked out, it's most likely now a BMS. Another couple quick tips before I leave: never put the probes of your multimeter into a charge port. The likelihood of you shorting the pin and the inner walls of the charge port is very, very high. Please don't do that. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. We are very active down there. If this video has helped you at all, please consider taking a look at our website, maybe buying your Esk8 parts from us. That helps us fund our free education, free videos here. Very, very grateful if you take a look at our website there. And also hit that subscribe button. We've got a lot more MBoards tips of the day coming your way, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, we will see you in the next one.